literally called this several months ago. I called it after the quarterfinals and before the semi-finals had even happened. But I'll get to that in a minute. I've got some updates on the Ricky situation. My name's Beth and I'm an everyday CrossFit athlete. I post vlogs, I post about competitions and stuff in the CrossFit news. I made a very controversial video yesterday showing scenes where we basically couldn't see Ricky Gerrard anywhere in the field, and then he miraculously appears and apparently comes first in event 1, which seemed crazy at the time, and I really wanted to believe it, but I couldn't find any physical evidence that he was anywhere close behind because we had so many different camera angles showing an empty field, until someone sent me this clip on Instagram, and I believe something similar was shown later on in the CrossFit feed, where we can see Ricky Garards' foot quite clearly, like a shirtless man is attached to this foot. So the only assumption is this is Ricky Gerrard, and he was in the background, but it was just so far in the background you kind of couldn't see. We know how good a biker Ricky is, so it is feasible that he could have caught up. The other theories that we had was that Jonakowski took so long to run from one side of the field to the other. Ricky could have absolutely tanked it, as we know he can on a bike, and then sprinted really fast because he was closer to the end. And then CrossFit released this footage last night, which basically shows both Ricky and Justin Mederios coming in just as Jonakowski was finishing.
Matthew and Ricky Garard, the pack that was chasing him. Here's what you gotta look. He's gonna pass this red pylon. Bam. From the time it takes him to pass the pylon, Ricky Garard's gonna roll in with Nick Matthew on the left. That's 7 seconds behind Koski. He has to run all the way across the field to his lane. He even slips. It takes him 10 seconds, and right then, that 3-second difference was what opened the door for Ricky Garard to pass Jonakowski. Look at the distance between the two.
I think they should have shown this footage when it was announced that Ricky Garard was the winner, because there was no clear evidence that he had got there and everybody was doubting it. And I think the thing with Ricky is people really want to believe that he's cheating because obviously they're aware he is capable of cheating and has done in the past. But personally, I actually like the guy and I believe that he deserves a second chance, and I did a whole video on this. His coach strongly believes that he can be an example of someone that can redeem themselves and come back from doing something really bad and prove that you can come back from anything and set a good example.
First event out of the way, how are you feeling?
Really? But unfortunately, the reason why my old video was titled "Did he cheat?" was because everybody in the live stream was saying Ricky's cheated, that's not true, he's definitely lying. So a lot of people are trying to paint him with that brush, but I actually think in this case he's just bloody good on a bike and really good at sprinting and quite clearly very good at a lot of the events. Honestly, I'm rooting for him. I would like to see him do well this year. I'm really happy to see him coming in first at the moment. Justin Mederios is in second, but he does have a fair amount of points as a lead on Justin Mederios, so I'm excited. Also on the men's side, we saw Patrick Vellner absolutely crush it at a gymnastics event. Obviously Pat is an ex-gymnast and I've been rooting for Pat since day one. I used to love all of the documentaries with the songs in them. And it was so cool to see him just smoke that workout and not rest at all. And I loved the kind of gloaty finish at the end. I love a bit of that. I'm also really rooting for him and I want him to do well. I think it could be super interesting seeing him and Ricky go up against each other, because if you remember the year when Ricky cheated and took PEDs, he was in 3rd place. That was actually Patrick Vellner's place in the end when Ricky obviously got disqualified. So I do wonder if there's a little bit of beef there, and that could make it really interesting. I'm honestly so excited to see the field on both sides shaken up loads and for us to have some new athletes in there. This is by far the most exciting CrossFit Games season I have ever watched so far, and we're not very far in yet. Event number 2 was so interesting. We had pirouettes, we had like an L-sit where you had to press to handstand, and we had double under crossovers. It was a bit crazy. You can see some of those more complex gymnastic elements coming into it, and I think that's really interesting. And I also had a theory about this a couple of weeks ago when CrossFit posted their fitness in 100 words. There was a lot of debate over the sugar thing and whether we eat sugar, because let's be honest, a lot of the CrossFit Games athletes eat sweets because they need the energy. What I was thinking when I saw that is they were reinforcing the idea that we need to be able to do pirouettes and presses to handstands and some of the other more complex gymnastics movements. And that made me think that they're going to start bringing more of that into the CrossFit Games. It reminds me, there was a video ages ago where they were talking about the future of CrossFit, and there was a guy doing an iron cross on the rings, and it makes me think that they're going to start bringing more complex gymnastics and kind of calisthenics movements into CrossFit, and I think that makes it really interesting.
I think the next evolution is really complex gymnastics, so like planches, iron crosses, freestanding handstand push-ups.
But I also understand a lot of people think it's too far, and CrossFit are taking it to a really advanced level, even maybe too advanced. And if you remember back to when there was the ring handstand push-ups, there was that debate going on then. Let me know what you think about that. I personally love the spectacle and I love things like that, shaking it up a bit, but as an athlete I think it would be a completely different experience. So it got really interesting on the women's side, and it wasn't much to be alarmed by after the first event because Tia came second, but then in the skill speed medley she tripped on some double unders and ended up with a 23rd place finish because only the top 20 went through and she was just outside of that, so everybody else ended up finishing above her, which has really set her back, and it is her second worst finish in her whole CrossFit Games career, which I can imagine could be quite worrying for her. I think Tia's an incredible athlete, but there are also some amazing women coming through, and a lot of the teenagers, they are experienced in lots of these skills. They've been doing CrossFit since their childhood. For a while we've been seeing a bit of a changing of the guard of the women coming into the sport. New people like Mal Obriens and Emma Lawson and Hayley Adams doing so well in the first event, and she's held on to those high placings in the next few. I think it is going to be very difficult for Tia, who's one of the athletes that have been in the sport for a bit longer, to hold on to that top position because there's so much fresh talent coming through, and let's be honest, teenagers do recover a lot better. Mal was so fast on the pistols and incredible at all the gymnastics movements. She was slightly slower than Tia on a barbell, but it was cool to see them going head to head, and for Mal to come out with a third in event 4, whilst Tia ended up finishing 9th, and I think we expected her to come into that workout and absolutely smoke it. Having finished 23rd in the event before, I thought she was going to go in and just send it and crush everybody in the field, but that didn't happen. Seeing some of the other heat times come in before her as well really dropped her down a few places. It was really nice to see Christy O'Connell up there. I follow her YouTube channel, she's amazing. Such an incredible athlete, and she is from a similar era to Tia, and it's nice to see her up there with the top finishers. And Daniel Brandon as well is a gymnastics machine. I thought it was so funny seeing some of the double under crossovers and basically just seeing a whole line of women like whipping themselves and getting really mad about it. So back around the time of the quarterfinals, I said in one of my older videos that I feel like this year Mal Obriens has a chance at winning, and I know that's a massive long shot, being trained under Matt Fraser, and with Matt Fraser knowing Tia's weaknesses, I feel like he's not going to hide those. He is going to try and give Mal an advantage. If it was going to happen any year, if someone was going to knock Tia off the top spot, it would be this year. We will see if I'm wrong moving forward, but this is definitely something I predicted, and it's quite crazy seeing Mal do so well. I do feel sorry for Tia falling down the leaderboard, but I'm sure she'll give a good fight to try and get back. Let me know in the comments below what you think. I'm excited to hear your opinions. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys!